Hello, you are listening to Talking Under Slot, the Slot Car podcast. I'm Scott, and this is my co-host,
Pedro.
If Le Mans was the rave party, then today's edition of the world's favourite slot car podcast is the Chill Out After Party, the place where we nurse tired eyes and slightly fuzzy heads. So, what did you make of the big race, Pedro?
I loved it. Tired eyes, that's you, mate. That's not me, because you were stupid enough to try and watch an awful lot of it on the telly box, whereas I watched quite a bit, and I watched enough to be excited, particularly the first restart when they were, I think someone said they were 5 abreast. I don't believe they were 5 abreast hypercars down the Mulsanne straight, but they were certainly, there was 5 of them duking it out, and I thought, oh, this is going to be interesting. I wonder how long this kind of madness can last. And it turned out it was a pretty good event, I think. It's regurgitated? No, what's the word? It's
I shudder to think. Reignited.
It's reignited. Yes. How did I get? Oh, there's a G in it. That's why regurgitated, reignited. It has regurgitated. It has. I'm going to stick with it. It's regurgitated my interest in Le Mans, which was on a bit of a wane or a wax. Can't remember the difference between those two. But yeah, I enjoyed it a lot, actually. I dipped in quite frequently for an hour or so, and I managed to successfully miss most of the downpours, which is
the thing. If you were lucky, you missed the endless safety car periods. So in the first, I think they did a lap, and then they had the safety car, and then, which must have been 20 or half an hour, because I think it was 40 minutes in. And then, as you say, the second restart, it was a bit exciting, and then they had another one, because they're doing, no, I'm not sure why, they're doing this thing where there's always been, not always, for a long time, there's been 3 safety cars at Le Mans that come out at 3 different points around the circuit and go back at, so that, it's a big circuit, it's 8 odd miles, so the field is sort of held up fairly. So they still do that, and then they go through this pantomime where they make all of one class of cars go to one side of the road, and everybody else passes them, and then they do the same in the next class, and they all pass each other, basically to reset almost like it was on the grid, and then they let them go again. It was explained several times in the commentary, and I really do not understand what the benefit of that is. It certainly kills. It was annoying me, and I'm very committed, as you said. And if you were a vaguely casual viewer and you tuned in and you got a lap of action, and then 40 minutes of slow safety car, that must have killed the audience. So, but however, fortunately, the drivers calmed down and stopped throwing themselves at the scenery, except when it rained heavily. So the Sunday was a lot clearer than Saturday was. I watched. I was very excited about this. I've been more excited about this Le Mans in a long time. Been looking forward to it literally for years, since the hypercar class, Ferrari coming back, etc., etc. And it didn't disappoint. It was good, and it was close. I mean, I think I said to somebody or everybody, I think other than the last hour when they were 3 minutes apart, first and second, it was less than that for most of the rest of the time. So the cars were, a minute apart. So there was always a sense that something was going to happen, and that was good. I was frustrated though, because past loyalties, perhaps, but I think Ferrari clearly had the quickest car, and whether they were going as fast as they needed to do and could have gone faster, we'll never know, because nobody else was really challenging them. I think Toyota took the fight to them, but they were having to be on the ragged edge to almost keep up with the Ferrari. So it was a bit of a shame from that point of view, but I think this is the whole balance of performance thing, so we'll see what happens once that gets sorted.
I think it's interesting that the Porsches were pretty quickly dispensed with. The Peugeot seemed to hang. The private, the Hertz Porsche hung in for a bit, didn't it?
Well, it came from technically last in the category to lead for a bit, and then it had an accident. The Peugeots were leading for a couple of hours. Who saw that coming? So
in France,
on that basis, it was a really interesting and varied race.
The lead seemed to change a lot. I didn't get the impression that the Ferrari was head and shoulders above everyone else. Um, Otherwise, I can't believe that anyone would bag their sand a little and not go flat out. I mean, if it's an endurance race, okay, I'm destroying my own argument, but I don't think they were that much faster than everyone else. But I thought it was really great the way that there was racing, and some would be in front and for a bit, and then I tune out, go and do some life stuff, come back, and the Peugeot's now in front, and I'll go away
No,
and
no,
come back, and it's like, there's a Cadillac threatening, and it's like, where are all these cars coming from? Brilliant, I loved it.
no, you got it wrong. Racing is life, remember. Everything else is just waiting. Which,
I'm going to flick a V at you.
very well, as you say, we all think that's from the movie Le Mans, and everybody misattributes it to Steve McQueen when actually it was a line in the script. But I learned recently that, in fact, it comes from a quote from Rudolf Caracciola, way back in the 30s, the German Mercedes driver, where he said something vaguely similar. So I'm assuming whoever was writing the script for Le Mans has found the Caracciola quote and slightly adapted it. So you're never too old to learn. 61, mad keen Le Mans fan, finds out that
Learns something.
learns something. Shock.
I thought the Glickenhaus was quite. I said earlier when we chatted before we started recording that I kind of shout for the little guy, and I know they're not super little because the guy's worth a few bob. But I was disappointed that the van wall, which I think previously I may have referred to as a BRM, that's just
Easy confusion to make. It's green. Yeah.
I was disappointed in that. But then that I think is pretty much the way of the van wall. It's slightly disappointing. The Glickenhaus at some point, because one of them started a bit far back, and then I think you said they finished 6th and 7th in the end. I was waiting for them to go pop, sadly, and just quietly expire, and they didn't. They just kept in there. I don't know how many laps they were down. I don't really care too much. They were close enough.
I think
and I
they
thought
did.
that was pretty cool. I thought they looked quite sharp as well.
They did their own thing, didn't they? They
Yeah.
ploughed round, tried not to get in trouble, and they did what needed to do to go. So I think I'm scanning the results because this is one of those factoids that I'm going to go. I think both Glickenhaus beat all of the works Peugeots and all of the works Porsches. That's not bad, is it? That if you were on the plane back to America, that you're probably going to take that. Now, clearly those other cars suffered some sort of hiccup, but the Glickenhaus didn't. So,
but hang on, I thought the Hertz car suffered a hiccup as well. Didn't that have a wee spell in the garage?
Well, I mean, quite a long spell, yeah. But no, so I think the Glickenhaus, as a result, 6th and 7th at Le Mans against the best. It's pretty, it's good. It's good. The trouble is, I think they probably didn't show up on the TV much because there was so much tight action at the front. And I think people were complaining.
They barely showed up. I wanted to see them, and they barely were there.
We didn't see very much GT3, did we? Because normally that was where the excitement was in the old days.
But I can correct you. It wasn't GT3. That's next year, as I learned last time out. Yeah.
Well, what is it?
GTE LMP
something
plus AM.
Sorry, I'm laughing. That laugh was because of another well-known Wi-Fi password movement.
That laugh is because of his laugh and his explanation, and we need to move on.
Yeah, I borrowed it.
Another laugh, which was me laughing at my own laugh. Okay, this is getting too meta.
It's getting too meta. Okay. Anyway, I know we don't pride ourselves on getting things absolutely correct on this podcast, but today will probably be particularly inaccurate because we're recording it on Monday morning. So, and I, for one, got 4 hours sleep over the weekend. Well, on Saturday night anyway, and had a bit more last night. And I had some. I don't dream very often these days. I don't know whether it was sleep deprivation or eating too much cheese. But I had a very, very, very crazy, bizarre dream. So I'm blaming that on lack of sleep, too much cheese, and Le Mans. 24 hours of tension. So I think it was good, and I'm already looking forward to next round, and of course next year gets even better because we get BMW, Lamborghini, and someone else, I think, building more.
The somebody else, you're correct. I don't know who they are, but I was excited to hear that Lambo might be there because I like a Lambo. Cheese balls, Lambos. I like them both.
And there's an Isofranchitti. Am I saying that right? So
There's a
hopefully they'll get
what?
an entry. And I think this goes something we were talking about where there are now so many hypercars, or there are going to be so many hypercars. So we had 16 this year. So potentially we're going to have another 6 maybe. So say at least. So we're knocking on for half the field going to be in hypercar. I not to be glass half empty, because I think this is indeed a sort of golden age of sports car racing, but I sort of see parallels with Group B, where Group B regulations changed, and we had the Quattro and the Renault 5, which were kind of in the stocks beforehand anyway, and then we got the 205 and all the other great, wonderful cars that everybody has very fond memories of in Group B, and although Group B got cancelled artificially, but it kind of died out, because of when you bring manufacturers into motorsport, they have to win. And when they don't win, somebody on the board goes, why the hell are we spending millions of pounds of money to make other people look good? So unless racing is in your blood, and it's not in a lot of these people's blood, then I can't see that being sustained. So I think the next couple of years are going to be the peak point of having all of these cars and teams entered. So it's a good thing. So let's look forward to that.
Can you just hit me with the name of that one again? Because
I'm going to say it wrong because it's Italian. Isofranchitti. It's an old. It's like a 1930s brand. So it's up.
But so I have a long love / lust for what I used to call the ISO Grifo, and I maybe have pronounced the ISO bit wrong. Is it heritage wise the same company as that? Because they'll get my vote if they've got that. Because I used to love my little Matchbox ISO Grifo, as I called it.
Pass.
They were something to do with Bizzarinis or whatever, the Bizzarinis.
I don't. It's Bizzarinis. I don't. Who knows? And I think I'm not an expert on old Italian, and I think there's a lot of people worked somewhere and then went to work somewhere else, and so.
Okay. Oh, and it almost certainly isn't. If its heritage is vaguely from that company, then it's almost certainly that trademark, that brand has changed hands multiple times down and is probably in the hands of some billionaire now who's going to play it more. Which, doff my hat, go for it. I'm immediately. I haven't seen the car. I'm a fan. I just love the name, or the heritage of the name. I keep saying heritage. The idea of Iso Pizzarini or whatever it was.
I promise to do some research and find out what all of these things are. I will read some of them.
Oh, but you'll spoil it, Scott. No, do research and you spoil it all.
Spoil it. Okay, all right. I won't.
Okay.
I'll just watch.
I will, after this recording, go and have a look for that because I was interested. I liked the Glickenhaus and I like the Van Wall, and now I like the idea of an ISO.
Now, normally you would be talking about a slot car and you say, I like that. And then I go, no, you buy one, but I won't be buying one.
But I won't
At
be
the
buying
minute, I think Scale Auto are doing certainly the Porsche and the Peugeot, and I think the BMW
963. Yes. And are they not planning the Cadillac? Which must please our 2 American listeners because the Yanks did well, didn't they? The Corvette finally won, and the Caddy was 3rd and 4th.
They must be delighted. The Corvette did it. I mean, talking about balance of performance, how did the Corvette come from dead last in GTE to win?
That was that
was amazing.
Quite a thing.
And I saw a friend of the show, Michael Fassbinder, bent it against the barrier.
Yeah, slightly. I think that would have buffed out if they'd have only got it back.
If they'd only got it back. Out. Yeah. So I look forward. The next series of Road to Le Mans is going to end in a bang.
Yeah, but they lasted a while, so I think they've got a couple of episodes in the Le Mans weekend. I think they've got a couple of episodes. I was disappointed to see it. I think, as I say, I was dipping in and out. I dipped in, saw that they were still running, was excited. I posted something on Slot Forum. Other websites or other forums are available. They're just not as pretty. And
Oh, it's pretty.
lo and behold, I think in the intervening period when I next dipped in, he'd crashed it. Idiot.
Right, I found it. It's Isota Franciti. So
Isota.
2 words. Isoto Francini.
How are you spelling
I don't
the
know how you pronounce it.
Isoto bit?
ISOTTAFRASCHINE.
That's such a visual thing for a podcast. Well done. Okay.
But the logo, their badge, is a red square with 2 giant letters in it, I and F.
If only.
Oh,
No idea.
So F.
So
Fantastic. Founded in 1900, apparently.
Yeah,
There you
no,
go.
that's just the original company. That's not the people now, I would say. Anyhow,
Well,
I won't be buying the Skull Auto. I won't be buying the Skull Auto
Why not?
because, well, the first one's the 963, and I didn't like the 963. It looked too LMP to me, my liking. My stomach's just rumbled. I'm pretty sure my mic won't pick that up. I should have just, as a professional, talked over it, but I didn't. I like the Hertz livery one. That was at Bicester Heritage a while ago, and it did look quite pretty. But I won't buy it because it looks too much like an LMP, and I don't like that. And I don't think it's going to happen, somebody did the Ferrari, I would buy that. And if somebody other than a 3D printer living in the past with their 3D print technology were to make one, I would. But if it's only going to be 3D printing, I'm not buying into that old school stuff. Just not going to do it. And I'd buy a van wall, obviously, and I'd probably call it a BRM.
Just paint the nose orange, and it probably is. No, that's it. Well, yeah, I'll be interested to see who. I think Scalectric are doing SRC. I think they've said they're going to make them.
And somebody said on slotforum.com, other forums are available. I won't tell you how good or bad they are. Somebody said that the SRC, and you have one of those, has been slottified, and you ought to know how it's been slottified because I assume you've sat on the wing of the real one or leant against it and broken a bit off or something.
You've really lost me now. I've got an SRC Toyota LMP1 model. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Not a
that's not a hypercar. But that one apparently was slottified a bit.
Oh, do you mean the wheel modified for slot purposes as opposed to scale
Excuse
accuracy?
Me, this is the 25th episode, and have I just discovered you're not familiar with the term slottification?
Slottification.
It's what the artisanal Italians do all the time.
Or Nincode. I think that yes, they're definitely lower and wider and not quite. They're not fully accurate scale models.
Hideously so.
That way, but they're yeah. I mean, it depends how you. Well, no, it depends. Does it look like what it's meant to look like? Yes. Is it a bit lower and wider than it would be? Probably. But it doesn't matter. If people are racing them, and that seems to be what they want. Which is a long-winded way, or I can say a short-winded way. Say if our friends down in Margate over in Austria, i.e. Scalectric or Carrera, who of late are certainly more interested in making scale representations which run on a slot, I would probably be interested in buying hypercars made by them. Not least because they would be a lot cheaper, because I'm not racing them. So
I think if they were to do that, I personally believe they would find a market for them. They would expand their market just a tadette, because I think, if I'm wavering, am I representative of the masses? I like to think I'm a people's person, but I'm not sure. But I'm on the cusp of.
I've got some bad news for you there.
You're not going to vote Pedro? Oh, outrageous! I've got a T-shirt and everything. I have come round to slowly and painfully and dragged it out a bit, but I have come round to hypercars, and I'm slightly nervous of the fact that they're going to be angle winder bullets, and I guess they probably ought to be because they're fast cars, but. Yeah, I think I could quite comfortably buy. I've said it already. Glickenhaus, the Ferrari. I'd even buy that Peugeot because I think it's it's novel in the way it's so different. Ditto the Ferrari's rear wing. I think it's novel. It also makes me think the Ferrari. Tell me it doesn't do this to you. Makes me think of a high wing 962 or 956, whatever it was.
No, it doesn't.
The high wing variants.
It
Really?
no.
Oh, really?
No, no, I don't. I could tell you yes, just
Could
to keep
you?
you happy.
Really?
But no, not
Oh,
really.
it does to me. Every time I saw it, I thought,
Yeah,
oh, wow, that's like a modern Porsche 962.
I see what you mean, but no, it hadn't dawned on me. Uh, Speaking of things that hadn't dawned on me, I got to about 23 hours in listening to the Radio Le Mans commentary as I
Who
do.
was that?
So
Who was that? Not the northern bloke,
who was
the Geordie.
Oh yeah, there's a usual cast of characters doing it, and they had, as they normally do, it's sponsored, and they have the pit lane report sponsored, and they have the weather sponsored, and all that. So over the 24 hours, of course, you start to hear the same. This is it sponsored by, but the pit lane stuff was sponsored by a company, and it was slightly irritating because I heard it so much, which was called CrowdStrike. So it said the CrowdStrike pit report.
yeah.
We're going to the CrowdStrike this, CrowdStrike that. And it wasn't until, let's say, 23 years in, I read a tweet someone saying, I've been a little bit uncomfortable all listening to that, given what happened in 1955.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know what happened in 1955, there was a huge accident and a car went off into the crowd.
A Mercedes.
And killed lots of them. A Mercedes, yeah. And so it was, and thereafter I thought, I wonder if that dawned on the guy. Probably didn't. It's just one of those things which, until someone points it out, you don't see
Can
it.
I
But,
just point out there was a car sponsored by CrowdStrike in the race, Scott? Did you know that? I didn't think you did. No. They're big in IMSA and things over in the Americas. The two Americans that listen to this will tell you all about it. CrowdStrike are big over there.
Well, it brought in 20 odd years ago when I was founding the social media team at Toyota UK. We went to America because we thought they'd have it sorted. There'd be the big book of how to do it. So we got a trip to California to find out. What we
you
found
had
out
to go to California. You couldn't just write to them. You had to go.
No, we had to go. But one of the dealers was spending a lot of money even then on a company called Digital Airstrike, which was a customer targeting. They were analysing people and saying these people are in the market. So I understood where it came from, but it was a typically aggressive sort of. I think when you start using war terminology for marketing activities, it was one of those things I used to fight about. I used to hate when we talked about conquesting customers, and I'd say there are only really two normal uses of the word conquest, and neither of them are good for the people involved. So
subjugate these people into buying a Toyota.
It's unfortunate the way these things. The one as an engineer, the one that bugged me for 30 odd years of my entire working life was people using the term momentum to describe sales numbers going up. And I gave up. I had to silently just scream in my head saying, it doesn't have velocity and it doesn't have mass, so it can't be momentum.
That's all right. I get very picky. Yeah. I get very picky with grammar and typos, and I then completely abuse the English language and words like livery. There you go, people. 24 minutes in, and he sneaked in a livery. Did you? Oh,
but
no,
talking of
you go.
When you go. I was going to say, talking of livery and sponsorship, one of the things which bemuses me about modern sports car racing, not just the hypercars, but also particularly the GTs, these are expensive things. Racing is expensive. A world championship is a very expensive thing to do. There are almost no well-known brands. These cars are not sponsored by anybody. So, okay, I can understand why Porsche will pay for their own cars and Ferrari will pay for their own cars, and they've got minor trade sponsors, such a thing. But who's paying for all these GTE, GT3 Ferraris and Porsches and Aston Martins? It's all companies I've never heard of. Now, maybe I'm just not in the market for what they sell, but it does seem odd to me.
I've never given it any thought. I did the one thought that I had about the 963 was I didn't like the works liveries at all. I thought they were supposed to be a salute to every past Porsche winner, and I just thought they look busy and Your point about costs. This is how sad I am. I went and looked up how much it is to buy a Glickenhaus hypercar. How much do you think?
I don't know.
I was quite surprised, actually, how little.
So to buy a race
Yeah,
car,
it says
one of those race
on their website. It says you can buy this car and go racing in the hypercar class. So I took them at their word. I believe it's a race car.
£250,000.
What?
£250,000
for a hypercar? £250,000.
Yes.
Bloody hell! Right? No, two million, and I thought 2 million was cheap.
Oh right, I thought you were posing me the question.
So I was posing you a question, wasn't I? Anyway, £2 million for a hypercar. I think that's quite cheap.
I've got some shit to say.
Well, it seems quite cheap. I don't know, but I just thought those things would be 10 million.
Slot car makers are going, that bloke says he'll buy a van mall. He's willing to pay this for it. Yeah.
Well, I thought it was. I don't know.
It's a long time since I was involved in building a racing car. But anyway, yeah.
Did you listen to the podium stuff? I liked it. The Americans, and I hope those two over there aren't going to crow hideously, because I was quite down on the I was quite down on the Hendrix thing, and I thought it would go bang. After.
Really?
Oh yeah, I just. I actually,
fantastic.
I warmed to it a lot. Seeing them jump through the window, Daisy Duke style, I thought was quite amusing. And the old jack that they used, and I actually warmed to it, but I did expect it to go pop, and it didn't. And although there's something deeply suspicious about that Corvette speed, I loved there was an interview on the podium, one of the drivers, God knows who he was, but he's just like, I'm a Corvette dealer, and I just thought it's almost like he was an ordinary
You're
Joe.
Confusing a couple of things.
Am I? Oh, that wouldn't surprise me in the least.
Well, were you originally talking about so you're talking about the Gary's 56?
Yeah, the Hendrix, a nasty car.
No, the guy you saw being interviewed on the
was
podium,
a Corvette.
Was the Corvette driver.
Yeah. And a dealer, Corvette dealer.
He's a dealer.
So he's going to sell a few today.
Well, I suspect when he says I'm a dealer, he's probably got
franchises,
the franchise for Florida or something. Yeah. So he'll be.
And I thought the caddies did well. I ended up bizarrely thinking, well done, in a patronising way. I thought, well done,
jolly good show. Well done.
Sticky wicket, it did rather well. Congrats.
Yeah. No, there's lots of stuff to unpick on it, but anyway, let's move on from Le Mans. The highlight of my week before the race, and you might think that was dominating my life, what with me watching old videos and reading books and stuff, which I was. I spent a very pleasant afternoon out in the slot shed because I had a friend come round, and we basically played with toy cars for about 7 hours. Chatted away, put the world to rights, all that usual thing that blokes do when blokes come together. But as I've said before, one of the things we wanted to do on this podcast, which even we struggle to fit in, is just to kind of reflect the reality the reality I believe, not just I have, which is most people don't go club racing. Most people enjoy their cars at home on their own or maybe with mates. And just the sheer joy of having some cars on the track, driving round, put a different one on, what's that like, and fiddle about a little bit. And that afternoon really encapsulated that, because he brought some cars with him, and I think we ran a few of them and talked about it. And I said, well, let me get out some of the things, that the oddball stuff. He would, because he's a bit of a racer. He's also a collector. But so things like the quad bike, the power slot quad bike, which I don't think he'd ever seen before, which is a lovely little thing. It's a nice little model. One of the favourite things I've got is the rider, who's well modelled, has a helmet, obviously, but his goggles are it's not just like a flat visor. They've actually modelled little clear goggles that fit in there. And it's got a drop arm guide.
Is this a Spirit?
And the
Sorry, was that
No, it's a power slot. And the magnet is in the end. It's by the guide. So basically, it's not really affecting how the cord handles. It's just making sure the guide stays in the slot. So I think he's going to go away and eBay for one of those. And of course, the ultimate in kind of quirky slot cars, once you go beyond Batmobiles and Starsky and Hutch, is the Lunar Rover. So we dug out the Lunar Rover, and gave it a few laps, which ever since I've owned it, that's what's happened. It comes out, it goes on the track, it does 3 or 4 laps, and then it goes away again. And in its way, it's kind of like this is why I always, the Goodwood Festival of Speed sort of thing, where people go along and there's lots of these cars and they all run for a minute. We look at them and they go away again. Well, that's kind of what I do in the slot shed. I just get the cars out and run them. So old Scalectric's car or old Ninko car, old Fly cars, all this sort of stuff. And it's just trying to reflect and talk about that happiness and that joy of doing that. It's not all about straightening the axles and truing the tyres or shaving the chassis. Sorry, you can tell I'm getting passionate about playing with toy cars.
I appreciate your passion, Scott. I do. And it was clear for me and the two Americans, one Canadian, one Swedish guy. I forget the rest. But you're wrong. I mean,
all right, okay. Don't sugarcoat it, Pedro.
You get enjoyment from just getting a car out and doing a couple of laps and then putting it away and getting another one out, and that's just not what it's about. I'd doff my cap. It sounds fun. I have to ask. I was being facetious, by the way. I know it's hard to tell sometimes with me.
Sometimes.
I need to know 2 things about the Moon Rover. Was it called a Moon Rover? Or Lunar Rover? Lunar Rover.
The Lunar Rover.
One,
yeah.
Does the antenna spin round as it drives?
No, it's not a comedy vehicle.
It's
a faithful reproduction.
That's disappointing.
No, it doesn't spin round.
That is very disappointing. And 2, how much did you pay for this Lunar Rover that doesn't have a spinning antenna?
Well, I can't remember.
Were they 200 quid was going to be my next question if you said I can't remember.
No, I wouldn't have paid that for it way back then.
I wondered. I thought you might shop at Waitrose, but do you pay that much for a toy car?
I think, and I can't even. I mean, it's one of the things.
It must have been a ton.
Maybe close to it. I don't think I would even have done
that. Must be.
I remember when it.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, I thought, in my memory of it, as I say, it comes out once every 3 or 4 years or something. In my mind, it was made by somebody like Cartrix or whatever, and actually, there's no recognizable brand on the box.
Wow.
So I don't know who made it or indeed why, but
I'm
glad they did.
And it must be 10 years old.
Oh, easily. Yeah,
and the tyres are all right. Because what I was going to say to you, if you only get it out every couple of years, you should be rotating your tyres.
It doesn't go fast.
No, but the way that some tyre brands just dissolve, I would be tempted to just rotate the tyres every now and then to get whatever weeps out of them running through all the atoms, as it were.
Yeah. I think because it's sufficiently old, the tyres, like my old SCX or my old Ninko cars, the tyres are fine.
They're proper rubber.
You may have heard me typing away there. The internet tells me, because it would be bad radio if I spent 5 minutes going out to the slot shed to find it.
Can I just guess? I'm going to guess it actually was Power Slot, same people as the quad.
It says it was Repro Space by Cat Mark.
Never heard of them.
Neither of those things. And presently, according to Google buying search, you could purchase one for prices that range between $39.99 and £130.
I don't believe that for a minute.
I'm guessing.
I would think minimum 100.
I'm guessing the $39.99 one doesn't work. But
minimum £100 for a working model.
It doesn't. I guess I don't know when, but I must have bought it 10, 12 years ago, maybe
easily.
more.
I would have thought. Yeah. God, I think I was still married when that was out.
Yeah. So sorry, I didn't want to bring back the trauma.
It's all right. I'm over it now.
I was a space nut, and so I was. As soon as it came out, it was like, oh yeah, I'm having.
How much?
The Venn diagrams have crossed.
How much of a space nut are you?
Oh well, that's a good question. I like spacey things. Why? I grew up in the space age.
I know.
When I was a kid, men were orbiting and landing on the moon and doing all sorts of exciting things.
So one of my, I quite frequently sit down to have my lunch and watch a bit of YouTube, and one of the channels that I have subscribed to is a name I've forgotten, but it is presented by a cracking individual called Scott Manley. and he is Scottish like yourself, and his name is Scott Manley, and you just know that you're getting facts from Scott Manley about spaceships, and that's bloody marvellous, I say. Sorry, that wasn't Sean Connery angry. That was Scott Manley.
Scott, I'm Scottish and I can't do that accent, so that says something.
But he's bloody marvellous. I love he explains stuff to idiots, me, quite well. And there's another one who gets really excited, if his name I've forgotten, about everything that SpaceX do. And I do as well. My kids are sick to death of me making them sit, and they're not kids anymore, they're young adults, making them sit and watch another booster rocket land vertically, Thunderbird styly, on a boat in the middle of the ocean. Blows my mind.
It is witchcraft,
It is.
that's for sure. It is definitely witchcraft.
Anyhow, slot cars.
Slot cars, yeah.
I've got a problem. You were down your shed. I've got a problem with my Oxford Centre for Technical Excellence and Technical Speed, or whatever I call it. The power's gone. I can't do any spraying. I can't do any truing. I can't do anything that requires electricity down in my shed at the moment, which is a bit disappointing. So I was lining up to do a lot of spraying this week, and now I can't.
Okay, I don't want to cast any sort of aspersions to your character, but on the basis that you still owe Simon from Hornbury £3.
No, I tried to pay him. I tried to pay him, and he declined. We mentioned this in a podcast.
Oh, right.
He's such a scholar and a gent. He wouldn't take the £3. He said, "Put it in a charity box," and I
jolly
have
good. Oh, well, in which case, because that spoils the joke, because I was going to say, is it just you've not paid the bill? You see, but that might. Anyway.
Well, the mere fact that I'm talking to you on an electrically powered computator.
It doesn't stand up to much scrutiny. Okay.
I think what's happened is a rat.
I haven't had much sleep.
Yeah, that's true. I fear a rat has eaten a bit of cable or something. But surely, if a rat or a mouse eats a bit of cable, doesn't it get electrocuted and then burn?
Possibly.
I need Scott Manley to explain it to me.
Could this be one of your rivals at the Oxford Slot Car Club who feared that you were getting too close and that your tuning techniques were about
sabotage. I'm not.
So they trained.
I am going to say this.
They trained a squadron of suicide rats.
I know. They hurl themselves at my cabling. I know we don't have a solicitor, but I have to say this because it amuses me, and I do believe John listens to the podcast, even though he's not one of the two Americans. But we raced sideways GT3s at Oxford last week, and they were a deep joy. It's the first time we've raced them as a class, and I was thoroughly entertained, even though I wasn't thoroughly fast. But one of my cars was much faster than that John Underwood's, and I do like it when he screams out as I blitz. I didn't blitz past him, but I pull away slightly slowly. He called out 25k motor.
I don't know what that means.
Well, there's 1700, but he reckoned I was pulling away like I had a 25k motor. I didn't. It amuses me, okay. And he beat me anyway. So small victories I'll take.
Well, that's winding fair enough. Winding up your own motors. I think the growing circumstantial evidence for trained rats sabotaging your tuning is clear.
Yeah.
The evidence exists.
It's that John Underwood.
It's a paint him as some Machiavellian slot villain in the corner. Speaking of tuning, again, other friend of the show, Dave Slaughter. Hello, Dave.
Have a cup of coffee on us.
I watched his. No, God, he needs a coffee sponsor very quickly. He's done a sort of review how to do it, use it video of Rob's tyre truthing, the Swift 16 tyre truer. And I found myself perilously close to ordering one.
Oh, you are on the slope, aren't you?
Well, I spend a lot of time. Well, I don't spend a lot of time. So when the old cars, actually the modern cars with the tyres that are going off, my tuning, I don't know whether you can call it that, even at the outmost reaches of the envelope of the word tuning, involves a bit of sandpaper under the tyres and holding the throttle down for a few seconds before they do a lap.
That's tuning.
just to rough up the tires and give them a little bit more
That
grip.
is tuning.
So the bottom of my slot shed is going to be, over time, it's going to be lined with millions of little bits of black
marbles.
Rubber. But the benefit of the way I do it is, of course, you don't have to dismantle the car. You just. Whereas even on the Swift 16, which we saw it at Gaydon, didn't we? You got to take the wheels off. Not the wheels off. You got to take the axle out and do it. So, but anyway, it may be a slow burn. If I had a birthday coming up or something, but we'll see.
The way you said, the tone in your voice then when you said, "But you've got to take the wheels off," like that was an anathema to you. You couldn't understand the concept of taking the wheels off a car, where the wheels are very clearly made to be taken off.
Well, yes and no.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. Some of them aren't.
If you take, so I was going to say, let's take, for example, a Scalectric historic classic Formula One car. You try getting the rear axle out of one of those without, destroying the model.
Really? I'm not familiar with the beast, but
oh yeah, I mean, they're not. I've taken this is a measure of it. In order to get the magnet out of them, I've now realised that I don't take them apart, because trying to put them back together again is almost impossible. I now prise them open sufficiently that I can pop the magnet out and then use tweezers to fish it out from inside.
What kind of? Surely, I'm thinking of a different era, because I'm thinking of
the 60s and 70s. So the Lotuses,
and they had magnets.
Yeah, oh god, yeah.
Didn't know that. I thought
that's because
go on, you. We're doing this a lot.
No, they've got each other. They've got the Looney Tunes thin motor, which revs to whatever, because it fits, because it's the right. The magnet. The motor they originally developed for the motorbikes.
Yeah, no.
That was another thing we got out last Wednesday, was the Scalectric.
Oh my god, you own motorbikes.
GP.
Scalectric's motorbikes.
Too.
Right, we stopped the recording here. I'm not having anything more to do with you. You bought MotoGP bikes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Why didn't you?
I'm disappointed. I am very disappointed. Two things that are disappointing me here. I need to refer back to you and your tuning technique, where you use the engine that is the motor that is in the car. You don't take the wheels off, so you're using the transmission, you're using the motor, and you're putting all that grief through the lot of it. You're not treating it like a proper racing car, Scott. You're not treating it. You're not taking it seriously.
That's because it's a toy car. I know this is a
stone him, stone the heretic.
It's a toy car. It's made of a cheap electric motor with some plastic and a possibly straight axle.
I'm going to have to reassess my life now that you've broken that news to me.
No. Well, I mean, I'm not saying you can't take toy cars seriously, but it is a toy car. Anyway, I admit I'm basically lazy. Fundamentally, my tuning is dictated by my laziness.
I don't believe
tuning is the wrong word.
No, I think that is tuning. It's a form of tuning. It's weird and it's wrong, but it's a form of tuning. And you're not a clubber, so you're not driven by the need for speed.
I'm pretending I'm post Ibiza now. You've said I'm not.
And that's thrown me. I suddenly, no, don't go there. So
keep talking, because I'm using the opportunity of you talking to eat some salted pretzel sticks.
I was going to point out to you, or try and point out to you in a bit that I might edit out, and just say at least 20 minutes ago, I was going to say, Scott, are you aware you're eating pretzels whilst trying to record a podcast? Have some professionalism, man. But then I thought, no, I'll just edit out the crunching. Can
you hear me crunching?
No,
you can't.
Okay, so I'll just edit in some crunching.
It's all part of the chilled, laid back, post lack of sleep weekend vibe.
Pretzels. They don't look like pretzels.
They're from a well-known German supermarket chain. Other well-known, and there's like salted pretzels, but they're in a straight line.
Well, surely, hang on, we're going to have issue with that. That's a twiglet, but without the Marmite on it. That's not a pretzel because it's not in a knot.
Well, it's just a straight pretzel, and Pretzels can be anyway. She's jolly good. Very.
Where were you
They're
going?
very Moorish.
Where were you going?
They're very Moorish.
Let's.
You don't
No.
want to know. They're very.
Shall
Moorish.
we get this back to slot cars? I can't remember what we were saying.
You were going to talk about something, and I was going to eat, but then you stopped.
And then completely forgot about what I was going to talk about. I know what I was going to talk about. Say it with me. Tranndzits.
Don't say tranny or we'll get banned. But anyway, Tranndzit.
Those lads up in Lancashire, they've released a new resin kit, and I can put that on your credit card for you. Tranndzits, and proper ones. Proper. Are they sliding door transits? A la what's that film based in the Lake District? Oh God. With Nail and Eye. Proper with Nail and Eye style, I believe. I'm probably wrong. Tranndzit, police Tranndzit.
Do you know I've never seen? Have you never seen
With Nail and Eye? Oh, fantastic film.
It was only last week that I got to watch
Chitty Bang Bang.
I forget.
Sound of Music.
I love Chitty Bang Bang. I love that.
Bo Derek and 10. Oh, we're off on Bo Derek again.
No. You made me forget the name. The Big Lebowski.
Oh.
I hadn't seen The Big Lebowski since.
You know what? It's only a few years since I first watched that because I got sick of people referencing it and not knowing what they were talking about.
I thought it was okay, but I didn't really get as is often the case with things which are kind of, mega cultural touch points. If you don't watch them at the time, you go,
oh no, I think it's quite a good film. I like that one. Anyhow, 4 Tranndzits are now available, and I was slightly rocked at the price of a Pendle 4 Tranndzits. Did you spot how much they were?
I'm sitting down and I'm eating pretzels. You can tell. It's safe to tell me. I won't put one in my mouth. Is this for a built one or an
No, they're only kits.
Do-it-yourself?
They're only kits.
Right. Okay.
I'm going to get my facts wrong here. So
250,000.
2 million. We will get a cease and desist order from Sean's solicitors
from Lancashire.
I think they were £100. That's for the full enchilada, the kit, the underpinnings, the works, which strikes me as
doesn't seem too. In a neat mirror of previous
Are we now going to
Glickenhaus Hypercar?
Really?
I don't think is that. Well, what's a white kit from Slottified? Slottified or Sideways.
I have just paid. What have I just paid? I think I just paid. I'm going to say I just paid one more time for dramatic effect. I have just paid something like 50 quid for a white kit out of that Europe place on the continent line, which I thought was quite cheap.
And that's a mass-produced thing that they've just not bothered to paint.
I tell you what, I have noticed, and I may be right or I may be wrong, obviously, but
there's a song.
Slotted white kits are quite cheap at the moment, or there seem to be some of the older ones. I also just picked up, because I've got bugger all else to do other than buy white kits, obviously, and it's not like I complete the buggers. I don't know what possessed me. I do know what possessed me.
I did.
But
I saw a photograph of you painting some of them, so that's a
start. Well, but now I've got no power. I was all my mojo's back for them. I was all set up to do some more, and the power went. I did spend 44 quid on a Mercedes C-Class Slottified. I thought, I didn't do the sums, but I just thought, I justified it to myself thinking, well, axles, hubs, motor, chassis, I'm saving money, or it's not costing me much on the separate bits. And so I get a spare motor, spare chassis, and at some point in the midst of time, I might stick a tobacco livery on it, because I like the green one, and I suspect it might be well for the Mario brothers get around to that one.
Yeah, but we've been here before with Sideways Lexus, haven't we? Whereas you buy the white kit and a set of decals to make the car because you think the manufacturer is going to be a while before they mass produce it. And who usually has the car out ready for?
Yeah, right. Oh, that's the other thing I did buy with the Sideways coming over from Espanol is the Huracan in Direction Racing livery. But here's the thing. I posted a question on slotforum.com. Other forums are available. I have nothing more to say. about
Oh, we wish.
Pato's decals being
Pato
a
decal.
bit iffy, because I looked at the set I got and they are a bit iffy. I don't think that's a legally binding description. I hope.
Iffy in the, I think you have to expand on
Well, let's just leave
iffy.
it there and make it vague. Then
Are they
the
like that
solicitors.
Italian hypercar maker with a badge? If.
Anywho,
Power of
I
if.
got in touch. First off, I put a post up saying I've always found them to be a bit iffy, and when I say always, the two sets that I've got, I'm a bit disappointed by. And other people have piled in and said, no, they're fine, they're fine. And that Conti Roland said he'd split postage with me, so that's cool. But I thought I would just check things out. And some of my issues with the decal set are actually embedded in the artwork of the decal. So I emailed Mr. Pato himself. And thinking this will go nowhere, I won't probably possibly even get a reply, because if you look at his website, and this could be litigious, the website, it's seriously old.
I'm ready. I'm ready to edit you out by snapping a pretzel stick at the appropriate moment.
I can't believe the website. It's like stepping back in time to a land that time forgot. I think you need Internet Explorer 4. It's been optimized is the phrase for Internet Explorer 4. Anyhow, I messaged him, said, could you do this? Could you do that? And he came back within the blink of an eye and said, yeah, we can do that. So they're going up in my estimation for the customer service thing, because I do like a bit of customer service, which is why I do like Pendle, Sean at Pendle and his lads, and why I do like True Speed controllers. And none of these people sponsor us. But so I'm going to try some Patos again, and rather than dip the currently pink Huracan shell that I have in some IPA, you have to watch the previous watch. You have to listen to the previous episode.
After you watch, have to listen to the previous.
I'm going to invest in another set of decals for it and persevere, and it won't be finished before the other one arrives. The actual sideways one arrives from the continent. But there you go.
So, okay, wait, is Patos a British company?
No, mate, they're Australian. That's another chance for an accent right there. And that's actually in his email, he was kind of like that. He spoke like that, and his voice went.
You could tell an accent from an email.
Because the end of the sentence he put in all caps. Because he'd gone up a lot.
I see.
I actually, going back to Le Mans, I was watching it on Discovery Plus Eurosport, and there was an Australian. I don't know who he was. I ought to respect him more, because I'm sure he was probably a racing driver. But I found he got a bit too. I don't like excitable commentators. I don't get it. You don't tend to get it in other sports. Why does motor racing attract excitable commentators? Alex Brundle was brilliant. I don't normally like Alex Brundle's commentary, and I thought he helped make this Le Mans for me, because he was brilliant. He had insight, and he was good. I don't know if he's had some media training recently or what, but I thought he was brilliant. And Anthony Davidson, that is more.
Well, I was going to say he probably just has to spend some time with his dad, because his dad's rather good at it. I had Radio Le Mans, so I find eventually, because the Eurosport through Discovery Plus interface is the worst in the world.
Tell me about it.
I think there was 31 channels that all said 2023 Le Mans live, and you had to go into each one of them to find out that most of them were in car. This is great. It's wonderful. You can click in a car. So you've got 24 hours in car. Fantastic. But how difficult is it to just put that in the description? Anyway, I eventually found the ad-free, commentary-free, the world feed, basically. So you get trackside sound, the odd interview with Tom Christensen. And I have that on, and I had Radio Le Mans playing. And because they've been in my head for nigh on 40 years, one way or another.
And that's the Geordie bloke.
I can't tell. Yeah, John Heidel. I can't tell you how much it was. It was like someone inventing the wheel, the printing press, and electricity all at once. Pre-Radio Le Mans, going to Le Mans was great, but you had no idea
what was happening,
what was going on, who anybody was, or nothing at all. So you'd come back and you'd have to wait a week and get Autosport read it. Then the first year there was Radio Le Mans, it was like, my God. So we all evolved that our ear holes could stand having little speakers in them for the whole. That was, your feet used to hurt, and when you pulled this thing out your ear, it was like,
that's what the real world sounds like. Yeah. Did you
But
talk
yeah,
about sort of vaguely historical things? I sent you that link. I can't remember who the old boy tootling around the Le Mans circuit was, but he's giving a commentary as he goes round, and he says, "Into Tetra Rouge now, first gear corner." And I just thought, "What? First gear corner? Did I send it to you? I think I sent it. You're looking puzzled. I think I sent it to you.
don't remember
He's
it. We see
tootling
the old boy. Are we
around
talking?
before they'd closed the circuit off, and there's French people on bicycles. There's French people on the wrong side of the road, and he's hacking along in a Jag of some description. And then he goes into Tetra Rouge here. It's first gear corner. I think, what? When was it last a first gear corner?
Well,
1950.
it
Basically.
used to be. It used to be quite a tight
Yeah.
corner, didn't it? Yeah. I in the midst of watching the race, I sort of dug out the shoebox that has all my old print photographs in it, and in there are the photographs I took in 83, 90, no, 95. Did that just come across? Did you hear a beding?
No.
Was it just? Oh, right, that's good. Well, apologies, listeners. My computer just went beding to tell me that I had an email.
What? Hang on. What did your computer just do?
Ding! I do it no justice, I have to say. Anyway, I dug out my old photographs from mid 80s, early 90s of when I went before, and I'll put some of them on the YouTube film. But I literally leant, as in sort of elbow high, on a concrete wall, which was about a meter from the Armco, which was only 2 levels high, and then there was the track. Yeah. No fencing, no millions of amazing. And I remember taking some panning shots on the inside of the left-hander at the S's because I could get that, and I wasn't, I don't have a big, huge zoom lens. I was, anyway. So I think it was the last. I went with work several times. I think it was about maybe mid or early noughties. I went as a sort of private punter again, and the facilities are fantastic, and it's much better. And I realised I'd just parked myself opposite a big screen, had Radio Le Mans in my head, and I was watching the race on telly, even though I was there. Which is why now I'm very happy to sit at home and watch the race on telly, and have my own bed and my own.
Well,
plumbing.
It made me think I'd like to go again, but it made me think because the 2 times I've been, I haven't had a bed. I had to buy a chair when I was there, and I had to sort of hide underneath one of the tribunes, which I'm sure has since been knocked down from the rain. So I would have to go with some kind of camper van or some kind of plan. But
do you know? I'm going to make a suggestion to you as we get towards we'll wrap up this chilled Le Mans post Le Mans.
I think I know what's coming here. Dangerous talk.
You should go to Le Mans Classic.
Oh, not what I was expecting.
I went to the first one, which was very relaxed, and I gather it's a bit more like Goodwood. It's become a bit more posh and corporate. But of course, they run cars from every era all through the night, so it's a different sort of experience. It's a bit more civilized, a bit less drum and bass in the campsite, if you know what I mean.
Just before we do wrap up, you were mentioning your photographs. There was a closing shot on the Eurosport broadcast that I watched, and it was a drone or a helicopter of the Dunlop bridge. So you've gone around the first corner, you're heading down the hill, and and I've been there, but the angle, the perspective that they got with the lens, it all looked fabulous, and the crowd were everywhere over the whole of the track, like in the foreground, in the background. And I just thought, oh, right. And in that, the racing and that image made me think, I should go again. I should be one of these people, sunburnt and tired.
I know the shot you meant. I mean, I think it was from a helicopter. Was it very long?
Yeah, very long lens, clearly.
Deep depth of field on it, wasn't it? So almost like it was a sort of.
Well, they'd compressed
the
image. It was. I thought that was a quality image. I thought the coverage was pretty good all round. I
did absolutely. I think you cannot fault. Given, I mean, the navigation on the thing is dreadful. I mean, Eurosport, if you're listening, and if not, why not? I'll come and do it, for God's sake. All it takes is half an hour to just type what these things are. But you had about 10, 12 in-car cameras. You had the commentary feed with the ads. You had the live feed. You had the timing screen. And that's just on that. Then you've got radio, the way you can follow that race now to the nth degree without getting out your living room.
I know, but then you don't get the
which
smells, and you don't get the vibrations, and you don't get the atmosphere. Or as the kids say, Scott, you don't get the vibe. And I'm all about the vibe, as I think you know.
Well, that's because you're young.
That's because I'm down with the kids completely.
Yes, but we told you not to talk about that.
Yeah.
Right.
Solicitors again. Oh,
shouldn't joke.
Let's wind this one up, Scott.
Wind this one up. Anyway, this has been fun. Thank you for doing this on a slightly hazy, hot Monday. The weather was very French, actually, wasn't it? It was sort of humid, and so that was good. Or it wasn't here, at least. As ever, when we get to this point, we say thank you for listening. We've had some really lovely comments on YouTube video. I said Pedro's waving a finger at me. I don't think it's an admonishment. I think he wants to say something.
Well, sorry, I've interrupted you. It's just as you were going to be nice and kind to our listeners, which is a bit of a mistake.
Yes.
I would have,
enough of that kindness stuff. Yeah.
Oh God, I should have let you go. I should have let you roll. But we need to point out that we may not be doing anything next week.
That's true. Me not. Are we definitely not doing? We might not. We might.
How are we going to do it if you're in
the
United States of A?
With difficulty, but not impossible.
I suppose it isn't, since we technically, are doing it over to internet now. Oh, see.
The time zone difference. How do you fancy doing it at 3 a.m?
Yeah, so we won't be doing one next week, dear listener.
Okay, but we will be back talking about like James Bond films. Remember, whichever James Bond film you went to, it always came up with James Bond will be back in. So they knew what the title of the next one was going to be. And this is, this is very early kind of, what was it, 60s or something, 70s? And I wonder, when I watched the last one, where
things happen.
Spoiler alert. He gets.
Don't say it.
Well, I waited to the end credits just to see what they said. And I think it does say James Bond.
Did it? I didn't see that.
I can't remember. Maybe I just imagined it. I don't know. But I thought, anyway. So I thought that'll be clever. Unless they do an origin story.
So are we saying, as we wrap this one up, that we're going to say Scott and Pedro will be back in, and then we need to give it a title?
I'm trying to think of a suitably Bond-esque title. Death in the Slot.
Live and Let Slot.
No.
The slot.
The
slot that loved me? No, that's wrong. Oh, no. We got to stop now.
I suppose. Anyway, right. Best edit now.
Done. Should we stop?
Especially since I'll be out the country and you're the one. All right. Yes, we should. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back soon.
Cheerio.